Welcome to another new VR games roundup video. Today we have another 10 VR games that are coming soon for Quest, PSVR2 and of course PCVR. First up we have F1 2024, which is releasing for PCVR only in just over a week on the 31st of May. Well, the game itself will be available for consoles as well, but once again PSVR2 owners are being skipped over as the VR mode is exclusive to PC. Come on now EA, all racing games should have VR support and the PSVR2 audience are ready and waiting for more excellent driving experiences. Now I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the biggest fan of racing games. It's never typically a genre I reach for during my downtime, and it was only recently with the release of Gran Turismo on PSVR2 that I started to appreciate just how good these games can be in VR. F1 24 follows on the heels of F1 23's VR mode, which I did enjoy despite not really having a single clue about F1. Fingers crossed F1 24 launches with even better visuals and VR-centric options than F1 23. And hopefully it looks miles better than EA's recently released WRC VR mode. One of the first VR horror game videos I uploaded to this channel right here was of a little game called Affected the Manor. I had just purchased my Quest 2 and decided to branch out into trying to make standalone VR content. I found a spooky looking haunted house simulator, strapped myself in and promptly scared myself silly to the delight of the handful of viewers I had back then. That was around 5 years ago now, and Affected the Manor still holds up as a decent on-the-rails spook fest. However, it's about time we got a sequel, and a sequel is exactly what we're getting with Affected the Asylum. The devs seem to be going bigger and bolder with every aspect of the game here. A scarier environment, better visuals, mind-bending visual moments, horrifically scary creatures, and a multiplayer mode, which hints at this game being more open-ended and explorable than the previous effort. Now I'm always up for new VR horror games, and this list is actually pretty stacked in their favour. Fingers crossed we see more about Affected the Asylum soon, as I'd love a 2024 release for this one. I wish I had some more exciting gameplay footage to show you for this next game, but sadly the only footage available is what you're seeing right now. Someone slowly walking around, pressing buttons and peering through little holes. It's truly riveting stuff. This is Riven Remastered, a brand new version of Cyan's sequel to Myst, and another opportunity for VR puzzle game players to melt their brains with some of the most devious, obtuse and painfully difficult puzzles around. I mean, honestly, I was loving Cyan's most recent VR game, Firmament, until I hit a point where my brain collapsed in on itself due to the sheer difficulty of a particular puzzle. I love puzzle games, but damn, this was too much for me. If you want a genuinely challenging VR puzzle experience, then Riven is launching for Quest and PCVR later in 2024. In the meantime, if you want to melt your brain, you can also play Myst and Firmament entirely in VR too. It's so great to see a developer dedicated to including the virtual reality crowd in their releases. Now before we check out some more new VR games, I've got a pretty awesome announcement to share with you all from the team over at SideQuest, everybody's favourite independent storefront for VR games, experiences, applications and much more. This year SideQuest is celebrating its 5th birthday, and to usher in that momentous occasion they are pulling out all the stops with 2 huge new projects. Firstly, the SideQuest website is getting a complete facelift. Now I think SideQuest's current website is already fairly slick looking, but this new and improved version blows the old one out of the water with a gorgeous new aesthetic. It looks far cleaner and much more professional than the current setup, with tons of animated tiles and links that adhere to the same style. This overhaul really feels like SideQuest growing up and taking things more seriously while still retaining everything that makes the service so good already. I for one think the redesign looks great, but leave a comment down below to let the SideQuest team know how you feel. Secondly, and this is arguably an even bigger deal, SideQuest are holding their first ever VR Indie Spotlight showcase on the 23rd of May. That's right, in just a couple of days we have a VR-centric livestream packed with first looks, huge giveaways and updates about the future of SideQuest. The link to that livestream is down in the description below, so don't forget to set your reminders and bookmark it before finishing with this video. It's great to see SideQuest's glow up, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for that team. I think maybe as a society, we've moved past Slender Man. I think this lanky suit-wearing weirdo peaked when I was still in university. I remember playing the original 8 pages on my very first laptop with a few guys I used to live with. It was terrifyingly effective horror despite being unbelievably simple, but things have progressed a lot since those simpler times. That being said, I am still pretty excited to see how a built-for VR Slenderman game holds up, and Slenderman The Arrival is a far more fleshed out horror experience with different levels, environments, puzzles, exploration, and spooky jumpscare moments that don't always include the faceless, lanky one. Slenderman The Arrival is available now for flat screen players, and is aiming for a September 2024 release for VR folks. I'll be checking this one out for sure, even if it's just for nostalgia's sake. Okay, I don't really know what the overall objective is in this next game, but I can tell you right now, I'm excited to just drive around an open world environment in my big off-road vehicle, hauling ass over obstacles, tricky terrain, and finding fun little things to do. If I just spend all my time dragging other vehicles that are stuck in the mud out of the mud, I'll be happy. This is Mudrunner VR, an official virtual reality port or offshoot of the popular flat screen title that has players driving a variety of different all-terrain vehicles across large-scale open-world maps with only a compass and a map to guide them. Now, I firmly believe we need more vehicle-centric experiences that aren't just racing games. Hopefully Mudrunner can scratch that itch. Mudrunner VR is launching exclusively for the Quest platform later this month. Next up, we have Fight Club the video game. Well, it's not actually Fight Club the video game, but it may as well be with all the fist fights and bloody faces in this trailer. This is VRSO bare knuckle fighting, and don't ask me what VRSO stands for because I have no idea. Virtual reality sausage obelisk, probably. That makes the most sense to me anyway. Bare knuckle fighting looks fantastic in these trailers. The visuals are crisp and the damage accumulating on opponents helps to give the game a gritty, realistic vibe, lending weight to every punch that's thrown. However, my only hope for this one is that the punches you do throw have a good feeling of impact to them. I've played my fair share of combat-centric VR games now, and the ones that end up being pretty forgettable are the ones where it feels like your hands aren't connecting with anything you swing them at. If VRSO can replicate the feeling of your blows actually landing, and combine that with a decent stamina system for blocking, dodging, and countering, this could be a decent addition to the growing list of VR arena brawlers. I love a gritty, grimy horror game, and Numata looks to be exactly that. An action survival adventure that seems to blend elements of Condemned with Outlast to form a new VR horror experience targeting a release in the latter half of 2024. In Numata, players assume the role of a detective who's investigating the Clover Hill apartment complex, a lovely sounding place where residents have been going missing or ending up chopped up into little pieces. Now personally, if I was a detective and I was offered that job, I'd tell whoever was offering it to me to shove it right up their arse, because there's not enough money in the world to get me into an apartment complex filled with chopped up dead people and missing tenants. Now there hasn't been much coverage of the VR version of Numata, but hopefully this flat screen trailer helps to paint a picture of the kind of game we're getting here. Also, this is being published by Perp Games, who have just recently helped to shape the exceptional Madison VR release. So I feel like horror game ports are in great hands with this particular team. They also just so happen to be publishing the Slenderman The Arrival game I mentioned earlier in this video. I'd like to think the VR modding community are almost entirely responsible for this one. Metal Hellsinger received a VR mod early in 2023, and now an official VR port is coming to all major VR platforms. That's the power of the VR community. Metal Hellsinger is like Doom merged with Guitar Hero. It's a fast-paced FPS where you shoot, reload, and dispatch enemies in time to the beat of the excellent metal soundtrack, and it feels so good when you get into the groove and find yourself perfectly in sync with the music. The chunky gameplay and exceptional soundtrack are the stars of the show here, with unique tracks from members of System of a Down, Lamb of God, Trivium, Refused, and other legends from across the metal genre. The VR mod is still available if you want to have a sneak peek of what to expect, but the official version seems to be bringing some great quality of life additions, polish, and the ability to throw up devil horns with your hands, which is just the coolest thing ever. Up next is one of my all-time favourite VR games, and not strictly a new game for a lot of players. This is Hellsplit Arena, an existing PCVR arena brawler that lets players face up against waves of undead soldiers in some of the best looking environments you've ever seen in a VR game. This game lets you wield a large range of weapons, from swords to halberds, blunt clubs to crossbows, bow and arrows to rifles, and you can even joust your way through enemies on horseback. It really is the ultimate VR sandbox, physics-driven brawler. However, that arena-focused gameplay loop is all it's ever offered players. Until now, the next big update is adding an almost unbelievable amount of content to this game. New RPG systems, large campaign-style levels, new arena-focused levels for story mode, new enemy types and races, customizable avatars, overhauled sound design, new UI systems, critical bug fixes, and best of all, it's aiming to launch on all major VR platforms. That's right, soon, standalone Quest users will be able to play this incredible game, and then shortly after, PSVR2 players can join in the fun as well. Quest is aiming for a Q4 2024 release, with PSVR2 aiming for Q2 2025. Hellsplit Arena has grown, changed, and developed over the course of its time on PCVR, and it feels like it's finally moving towards the game it was always destined to be. And finally, the new VR game that I am officially most excited for now in 2024, Batman Arkham Shadow. I have been crying out for a new Batman Arkham game since I completed Arkham Knight, and no, Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad don't count. This is one of my favourite franchises in all of gaming, and to get a new installment built specifically for VR feels like a weird fever dream. Fingers crossed this lives up to the massive expectations of players like me who want to truly become the Caped Crusader in VR. But we don't have long to wait to see some gameplay, as all will be revealed at the Summer Game Fest this June. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do leave a like, drop a comment down below, and hit subscribe. I'll see you all soon for another one.